Hi everyone, welcome to Tech Down Over. I'm Rick Zanotti and I'm joined today by Harold Muliati, who is still running the video switcher and producing the show. We've got a great guest today. He's on for, third or fourth time. It is Ramon Trotman from, he's got several. He's got Lifestyles Defined. What was the other one?
Well, he's got RTPerspective.
RTPerspective, his photo and camera and photography site.
And we've got the links for Lifestyles Defined, both the website and the YouTube channel,
cool.
and RTPerspective below if you want to check it out.
Here we go.
This show is sponsored by Relate Corporation. Digital learning development, media development, corporate video, management consulting, and more. Visit us at www.relate.com. Thanks.
And we are back and in that center position of power, as we like to call it. We've got Ramon Trotman back. How you doing, Ramon?
I'm good. How's everyone else?
We're good. We're good. We're all surviving COVID slowly and very slowly, but surely.
We'll get over it.
Oh man, if we don't kill it, it'll probably kill us at the rate we're going. But we're all hanging in there, and I've been watching your podcast that you do on a fairly regular basis, and you've been doing a great job. You've been, and I like the fact that you were doing a lot of stuff about what's going on in society, what's going on with a lot of different things, and you do it from a photographer perspective and from other things. So we'll talk a little bit about that later, because I think you're just hitting the hammer on the nail, and it's things to consider people don't think about. And and also, man, there's so much happening in the photo world. New cameras. Have you heard the latest from Blackmagic Design? I think it was announced yesterday.
Yeah, was it an 8K?
12.
Did you say up
12K?
Was it 12K up to like 60 frames a second?
Yeah, that's 1260.
What's with that?
What does that even? What do we even do with that? I don't even know.
1 megabyte per second.
1 gigabyte.
1 gigabyte per second.
Yeah, it's 7.2 gigabits.
Oh my god.
Data rate.
I mean,
I saw it. I had questions like, do we even have a throughput that can transmit that amount of data?
Not much.
It's going to be kind of niche on the applications, I would assume at this point.
It's only cinema, though it does support. Interestingly enough, the mounts they support are either the PL mount, which I think is the cinema lens mount. They support EF mount from Canon, and they support the F mount from Nikon. Nikon's doesn't even really have fast lenses like some of the other ones. So I mean, fast in terms of focus. So it's a weird camera. It's the Ursa Mini Pro from Blackmagic Design.
Yeah, Pro 12K.
About 10 grand. So I don't know. It's an interesting camera.
I will say this about Blackmagic. Most of from the time I got into, I guess you could say, filmmaking or photography, I've seen Blackmagic stuff and just always had a question, why? And then as time progresses, their cameras kind of slot in nicely, and they make more and more sense as we go on. But this one's is just the farthest I've seen it.
And
I don't think we'll need this until another 5 or 6 years.
I don't even think we need 8K personally. I mean, it's huge. Right. Again, that's huge, and you're going to need a fast computer. You need a lot of memory. I mean, to be able to edit that, it's going to be heavy, unless people just re-encode it into something else, which
that'll probably be it. They'll have their own secret sauce that you re-encode it into something actually usable.
Yeah,
or they say it only works with DaVinci Resolve. That'll be interesting. So and they may do that. They did that with some other stuff.
That's true. Blackmagic Raw only works with Resolve, I think.
So and it uses, what was it? CFast cards.
Yeah.
So I think they make a 1 gigabyte CFast card. It must cost about $1,000. They're not cheap. So you're not going to have a ton of media unless you're really doing a big major budget type photo shoot or video. It's really a video shoot at that point. So I don't know who they're targeting. And I keep thinking, what do I even? I don't even need 8K. I don't. That new Canon. I don't want the big one. I want that R6 because
The R6, yeah.
the R6 looks like 20 megapixels. It's basically kind of a mini 1DX Mark III. I was going, ooh, that sounds good. For $2,500, that's not that bad. For $3,900 to get the R5, I don't need it. I don't need 8K. It doesn't mean much. Harold may want 8K. He likes to do stuff like that. But
relating to what you were just talking about, I was just looking it up on B&H, and it looks like CFast cards at 1 terabyte are around $1,000 each. So that's pretty expensive to be shooting with.
Yeah,
That's wild.
Yeah.
And you usually need 2 minimum. If you need 4, if you're doing a double shoot, you need 4. So you got $4,000 just in cards. I don't know. I don't know.
It ain't for us. We'll put it that way.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's more than we need. More than we, mostly we do interview videos. We do other kind of simple videos, corporate videos. We don't need 8K. We don't even, and 12K would be just overkill. And then, I don't know. I mean, I'm shooting right now on what you're seeing right now. I'm on a C200, and that's about as fancy as we ever need. We could get a 300, I guess, but a C200 was fine. And the rest we're shooting with, we have an XF705, which is a Canon camcorder, which is really nice. And then we've got the Panasonic GH5s and GH5S and G9. That's what we shoot most of our videos with.
Yeah, and that's what I'm being filmed on right now.
Yeah, he's on the G5 right now.
Yeah,
GH5. And they do a great job. And
I've been considering upgrading to a GH5 because I have a G7.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Oh, you'll love the GH5. Now,
yeah.
Interestingly enough, you can also look at the G9. Now, the G9, I think now has unlimited recording. Did they change that, Harold?
I think so.
They did, yeah. A G9, you would love for not only the photo quality, because it really looks like a Canon. I mean, it has, or even a Fuji. It has beautiful picture quality, and it also has very nice video. It's not really built for video in terms of all the video features, but it can take beautiful video. Or the GH5S, which is really more their video camera at the Micro Four Thirds. It's only 12 megapixels, I think. But it shoots, even the pictures it takes look great. It has a certain look about it, which just look really, really nice. And there's some really nice Micro Four Thirds lenses out there that do a great job. They're not cheap either.
I love Micro Four Thirds lenses.
Yep. So it's nice. Now, you're shooting. Are you still shooting with? You have a Fuji, I think, that you were really enjoying.
Yeah, I've been doing. Actually, I love that Fuji, but I've been doing a lot of work with my. I just got an EM5 Mark II.
Ah, okay.
And the wife got me the. What is it? The 150 to 300.
Nice. That's a nice lens.
So what do we have? 300 to 600.
Wow.
So I've been doing a ton of work with that lens. Because it's so new to me, that amount of reach.
Is it the Olympus lens proper?
Yeah, it's the Olympus.
Olympus makes great lenses.
Yeah. So I've been doing a ton of work with that. And then I haven't been doing much street stuff for obvious reasons.
Well, yeah.
But
people in masks
the
just
Fuji's
don't look
more my street stuff.
Yeah. Now, how do you feel with Olympus basically closing down the camera business? They sold it, and hopefully somebody will do something with it. I don't know.
Yeah, so the company they sold it to...
Japan Industrial Partners.
It's the same company. Yeah, JIP, I think they're called.
Yep.
That's the same company, and I've been through this song and dance before because I was a huge fan of Vaio. That used to be owned by Sony.
Yep.
And I always thought Vaio was the one brand in the Windows world that would outright compete with the quality of products you see over at Apple.
Mm-hmm.
And when they sold it, we kind of had some hope, like, all right, well, they just sold it because Sony decided they had their own problems and it wasn't profitable anymore. So hopefully this company can sort of maintain the DNA and the heritage of Vaio.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And they just turned it into a budget brand.
Oh,
so when taking that, what they did over there and looking at Olympus, I'm like, Olympus really is in trouble. I don't know what they'll do, but maybe some fresher eyes can lead to a better outcome. Like, I would love to see them just target APS-C or full frame.
Yeah, and they could.
Like that would be the goal.
They could.
Yeah, they would stay alive. And
everybody says what killed Olympus at the end was they put a lot of money into that $3,200 camera. Their Micro Four Thirds,
the pro level one.
Yeah, it was really nice. It looked nice. It got great reviews, but the market wasn't there for it. People didn't want to spend that much on it.
EM1X or something like that. I think it was
something like that. X. Yeah, I think that was it. I liked it. Right. It looked pretty cool, and I was going, no, I don't want to spend on that.
Not for that money.
No, 3,200 minimum. It was cool. It had a nice look to it. It had a big body, and it had the built-in camera grip and everything. It was kind of neat. And I've got two Olympus lenses right now that are both really good. One is, I think I've got the 40. Is it the 40 to 150? I think that's what it is. And it's a nice lens. It's really good. And then the other one I have is one of their top of the line ones, which was is that a 7 to 14?
I think
it's a 7 to 14. It's a beautiful lens. It's big and heavy, and it has such a beautiful look when you take the pictures. They do something with their glass that makes it look different. I don't know.
Their DNA. It's easy to see their DNA shining through because ultimately they are they make microscopes.
That's true.
Is that what you? Oh, yeah, they make microscopes.
They do.
So
they do.
Oh, yeah.
Their lenses are untouchable.
They also do. I thought they also did telescopes, but I'm not sure.
Have you found with the Olympus lenses though, like Rick and I were saying, at least from the two that we have, the lens hoods seem a little funky, like a little bit overcomplicated on the mechanism for, like locking the lens hood. And on the 40 to 150, for example, it has like the ball bearings in there and stuff, and ours actually broke, and it kind of sometimes stays in place.
It's sensitive. It's sensitive. Yeah.
It is weird. It is definitely weird.
It's a cool design, but it just doesn't work too well. Once you take it out in the field, it's like it just broke. Oh.
And
and we're not rough on the cameras. It's like, what happened?
That is kind of interesting about. I didn't know that happened with Vio. Like I just hadn't really heard about Vio.
Yeah, I was
recently.
wondering. I thought Sony just stopped making the computers, and then, I knew that Japan Industrial, is that what it's called?
Japan Industrial Partners. But when Rick and I
remember,
heard about,
like you said, they made a budget brand. Well, what is JIP? JIP. It's kind of cheap.
But yeah, when Rick and I had heard about that, we were thinking, I wonder what Ramon's going to think about this. He likes Olympus.
Yeah, it's sad to see. I mean, there's so many directions they can go to keep the brand alive.
I know.
When Olympus had it in their hands, I'd always wish they would actually make lenses for other mounts.
They should have.
Because I think Olympus could challenge Sigma. They could challenge Rokinon.
I agree.
They would do a really good job and at a nice budget price, but they never. No. For some reason, they never took that avenue.
No, they had a lot of other divisions. They made calculators. They made I think they made copiers too. They made actually very good hand recorders, field recorders. And
their audio stuff's actually pretty
stuff
solid.
Is actually pretty good, but they're kind of all over the place, and maybe they just weren't focused enough. I don't know. In Micro Four Thirds, Panasonic beat them, and I think that's what probably depressed them. I don't know, because Panasonic sold much more, even though Panasonic, I don't know how well they're selling on Micro Four Thirds right now either. With all the full frame cameras coming out at the price of Micro Four Thirds, it makes it harder to want to buy Micro Four Thirds right now. And
the writing was on the wall. It was definitely on the wall because, and the business part of it's so interesting, right? Like when you make a smaller product, you have no choice but to charge more.
Yeah.
And at the other end of that spectrum, you've got Sony, you've got Canon, you've got Nikon with their full frame cameras, and they're mass producing it. So the price of their cameras is just going to start to come down.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So at some point, we're going to meet in that middle ground, and it's, as a consumer, you want more for your money. That's you talking about value, and I think Olympus Micro Four Thirds in general starts to struggle when you add that value into the equation. And then Panasonic saw it coming, right? They just jumped ship.
Well, yeah, but it's interesting. So they developed a big camera, the S1, the S1R, and the S1H.
I've had my eye on those for a while.
I do too, but I won't buy it. I like
lenses look
Panasonic. I won't buy it.
incredibly
One, I hate the Leica.
expensive.
I don't want a Leica lens. I can't afford a Leica lens.
That's funny. That's what everyone says about them.
And why would you do? I mean, I like Sigma. You could buy the Sigma version of the L Mount Alliance, but the L Mount Alliance, I don't think is going anywhere. And the cameras aren't selling worth beans.
I mean,
if you look at the S1 that came out first, it's half price right now. It's gotten really cheap. It's like,
It seems to me
maybe
that
I should swoop in.
Yeah, and the S1H is the one that does video more. So, that's another good one. But that one hasn't gone down yet. But the other two have gone down. I think the S1 is now 2,400
let me check what that's at.
from 30-something hundred, I think, originally. So it went down quite a bit.
I'm
But you
seeing
gotta
one on
get
Amazon
lenses
for
that-
just under $2,000.
And then you got to get lenses that fit.
Yeah.
I don't know. It still has the focus I'm not crazy about, which is the depth of field focus and not much.
Oh, it's phase detection, yeah.
There's no phase detect. No, they're contrast detect. That's the
Their
problem.
contrast. Okay, so
they
you get
never.
that.
I don't know why,
that
but they
hunted.
won't go. They won't go phase. They won't even go hybrid phase. I don't get it. They want to prove they're going to die on that sword, but they're gonna come out with contrast detect and make it work, and it works okay, but it still doesn't work as well as as the phase detect.
Yeah.
It just doesn't.
Yeah, it's unpleasing to the eye. Like once you see it, you notice it.
Mm-hmm.
You can't unnotice it.
No, and it's a lot better than it used to be. They've had a lot of firmware updates that really, I mean, sometimes you don't see it, and every so often out of nowhere it pops up, and you go, oh, so. It's one of those. You need a lot of B-roll to cover it because sometimes you're going to get it no matter what.
And for that reason, even though, I mean, with the GH5, since all those updates, it's been quite solid on the focus. But even still, just in case, I'm actually on manual focus on this one.
Yeah.
Just in case.
And he's only like 3-4 feet
Like
from
why
it.
take the chance?
Exactly, yeah.
Now I'm on the Canon right here with the dual pixel autofocus, and it works like a champ. It never loses it. And now they have the new dual pixel autofocus 2 for their new R5 and R6. They said it's even better. So I don't know. I like Canon. I guess I've been a Canon guy for a long time. I started hating them for a while because they kept crippling everything, but they seem to be getting with it, and they're putting out good stuff. And even though it's expensive, it doesn't break. So I can't complain too
I've
much.
got a very interesting perspective on Canon. I think Canon is the true professionals brand because when you look at things like Micro Four Thirds was out, and those were mirrorless, right? Panasonic and Olympus, and then you look at Sony. Sony came in and they really disrupted the market, and then everyone's looking back at Canon like, what's happening? What are you guys doing? And it's just like, I don't know. No one knows what's going on over there, and you watch the world go by, and then Canon shows up all of a sudden, and they give everyone everything that they wanted. But you literally had to wait 10 years for that.
But
consumers, we don't have that type of patience.
No,
professionals do.
But what's funny, everybody's swinging back towards Canon right now because they're coming out with cheaper cameras with everything, and they work. And meanwhile, Sony sales have dropped. Actually, Sony, I was looking at stats the other day. 10 years ago, Sony was making like $26 million in the camera division. Then it every what was it? 4 years it dropped by half.
Yeah.
Right now they're at $4 million a year. They're not making much money on these cameras.
Wow.
And you go, that's it? Wow. I don't know how much longer. And Sony may decide, you know what? We're not going to stay in it. You never know. You never know. They've always been a big company in a whole mess of different areas. They sell tons of TVs and other stuff, and they're very good. And the cameras are good. But we bought at one point most of the Sony line about 2 years ago, and we sold it. It was nice, but it wasn't as good as Canon for what we called professional shoots. It wasn't as clean. It wasn't as ergonomic. I liked the cameras. They were fast. The focus was great. In some ways, it was as good or better than Canon, but I think Canon, again, tweaked their dual pixel autofocus, and it seems better again now. I think Canon was crippling itself just to not compete with itself, which is.
And I think another thing that affects you, as you said, Canon in its position as sort of the professional's choice, is because they have such a large market share, and it's kind of a chicken and the egg thing. But because they have such a large market share, then you have a lot more options when it comes to like peripherals, parts, being able to get replacements if something happens, that kind of thing. It's and that obviously becomes very important when you're on a professional shoot or something like that.
Yeah.
Yep.
So
I mean, Canon never went anywhere. I can tell you, anytime I've been out and about in New York and you see tourists, and it's literally only two cameras you would ever really see. You will all see Rebel, right? So you've got your T6, T7i, and this is what tourists use in their country. There's no doubt about it that you buy a Canon, and then you see Leicas. So you got the regular tourists, and then you've got people who are just rich walking around Central Park with Leicas. And you may see a Sony here and there. And if I see a Sony, I could probably tell you, that person's not a photographer per se. That person's an Instagrammer. They're a creator. They're a blogger.
Right.
Okay.
But Canon has never gone anywhere. And it's been a very perplexing puzzle to solve, because as a photographer, you're and a creator, right? And an Instagrammer, you look at Canon and you're just like, how though? You guys aren't pushing the envelope.
I know. I know.
But,
it's so funny. And what's interesting? Another statistic: Canon revenues for camera division are larger than all of the other photo makers or camera makers combined.
Yeah.
Combined. And they still have a lot more left over. That's how big they are. And Canon also makes copiers, huge copiers. They make X-ray machines. They make all sorts of other, just like Olympus. They make a lot of medical stuff. They have other divisions. This is a big company. They do all sorts of stuff, and their technology bleeds from one division to another. So they share a lot of the lens technology, a lot of the stuff they do. They're the only other company besides Sony that really makes their own sensors. They make short of a couple of the small point and shoots, which they get from Sony, which is sort of odd. The sensors are all made by Canon. So it's a strange landscape we live in today. But by and large, I think the camera industry is in trouble. These cell phone companies. These cell phone companies are not playing around, and they're figuring out real ways around hardware limitations by computation and photography. And I feel like the camera companies are so far behind, and they're doing it to themselves. Really, they are. Yeah, it's interesting. I still like I like the feel of a camera though over a phone. The camera just feels so much better.
Yeah, because we like the physical. We like that interaction.
Yeah.
But I got to tell
like me, you're clumsy,
and
the phone falls out of your hands.
Exactly. I look at the things that the phone does, and sometimes, you just take a picture on the phone and it's perfectly exposed,
and it looks good.
And then it looks good, and then you take a picture with your camera, and you're like, well, you gotta really see what this looks like when I get home and I open up the shadows and. It's
Ramon, I'll tell you. One time I was in Vegas and I was doing a video shoot at a trade show. Thank God they weren't paying me for this. I took about 350 shots. I get back to the room, and this is on a Panasonic, and almost every single shot was blurry, and I went,
oh.
And it was my fault.
Yikes.
I had my shutter speed too slow. Instead of 125th,
it happens.
I wasn't paying attention because everything on my LCD screen looked perfect when I shot it.
Yep.
And
I've been through that.
Man, and I was just kicking off. Oh, this is great. This is doing well. Love this camera. And 1/125th, I was at 1/60th because I had left it in video mode. And I just went, oh, I can't believe I did that.
And
it's a rank newbie mistake. And yep.
But that is actually something that phones can sometimes have a bit of a leg up, where it's easier a lot of times to review pictures just because the screen's bigger and the controls are a little more. The colors
are better on the screens.
Lend themselves a little more to that. Yeah.
Oh, by the way, we started the show and I forgot totally. You got married last October.
I did.
And we wanted to congratulate you. It's a little late, mind you,
gentlemen.
but
Thank you.
we want to wish you. I don't remember if I sent you a note or not. I thought I did, but maybe I didn't. And we just wanted to congratulate you. And of course, right after you get married, you go into COVID. So now you're very close.
Yeah, we haven't even
works.
celebrated our first anniversary, and there's so much that's happening. I mean,
isn't it amazing?
It's wild. It
Remember
feels
when
like
the world
3
was a
years
normal
has
place?
passed since that.
Yeah. And you can go back one day and say, remember we got married, the world was a normal place. Now, yeah, what happened? Now, you've been blogging a lot about kind of keeping with the trends of the social issues going on right now, or at least being highlighted right now by any and everyone. Some valid and some not so valid on the issues. But you've really, I think, hit a lot of what your experiences were and what's been going on. I think you're spot on everything you've been saying. And what I love about what you're saying and talking about is that you're rational. You take your time, you think about it, you analyze it. You don't come up with something and just say, kill this person. No, you're thinking about things. You're looking at it going, wow, what is going on? And you made some points. You were talking in one of your podcasts recently about how, as a black man in this country and as a photographer, if you go out to certain places and you're taking a shot, the police may see you and you may get stopped just because. No other reason. And I thought you're right. That's a real valid point. I've had many friends who've been through the same thing. They got stopped because they were black or they were maybe something else, and they just what are you doing here, or why are you in this? Why are you in this lot? Right. What's going on? And when you said that, I went, yeah. I knew how you felt. People probably won't know why I knew how you felt, but I knew how you felt, and I was just thinking, that's a sad reality. It can be, and it sounds like from the way you handle it is you deal with it. You talk to people, you explain why, and most people get it. They don't, a lot of problems always happen when people don't talk or they take a defensive posture. And by the way, it's not a hard thing. I mean, I've been stopped by police for being in my area, an area I lived in actually, but they thought I was somebody who didn't belong there or whatever, and I got pulled over and said, what are you doing here late at night walking? Nobody walks in LA. So when you're walking, you're immediately, what are you doing? I like to walk. I grew up in New York. I like to walk.
Absolutely.
But they don't do that here. And so it doesn't matter what color you are. You can get stopped by anybody. I was in Beverly Hills. They'll stop you. They don't care who you are, what you are. And when I was with a friend of mine who was Chinese, he had darker complexion. We always got stopped at least once. And they never hassled us other than put the light on us and say, what are you guys doing? Walking home.
Right.
Oh, okay. I even showed one of the cops my driver's license. Oh, no problem. I'm sorry. I go, no, that's fine. Appreciate it. Thanks for checking us out.
Right.
I just take that approach. And most of them aren't trying to harass us. They're just trying to find out, what are you doing? I look at it that way.
I mean, you're absolutely right. I think conversation breeds perspective, and we all need perspective. So is it my reality? Yes. I go somewhere and I'm more likely to attract more attention because of the color of my skin. But also there's a level of privilege that I have, and that allows me to counterbalance things I experience, right? There aren't many people, color, creed, nationality, that can afford the thousands of dollars of equipment I do to have this craft. So if that's the road I take, whatever situation this craft lends me to, it's kind of like, all right, well, everything you do is going to be hurdles, and this is a hurdle for me. And I think knowing is the most important thing. Knowing that I can be stopped or targeted, knowing that it happens means when it does happen, I have already had that conversation with myself on how to conduct myself. Be it as it may, some people may feel, well, this is crazy because they don't have to, and that's also true. But if you continue to focus on someone else's reality, then it's quite possible you'll never really get over your own or find a way to get through it. So
what I think is, and this happens with everybody. And not so much white people, at least not in my experience. But there's a lot of focus, and to a certain point, I think this is bad programming that goes on purpose. There's a lot of manipulation of minorities, and it's sad, and it happens from the media and every politicians, you name it. And as a result, people are taught to focus on a part of themselves. That's how I see it. I have a friend who's a minister. He's African American. He's a good friend. I love the guy. And I'm not overly religious when it comes to go. I don't go to church, but I'm religious, if you know what I mean. I believe in God or some form of God. I'm not sure. I don't know if we can really truly understand it, but I'm cool with most religions. And I look at him, and we were talking one time, and he asked me to write articles for his church. It's a black church for the most part. Most of the congregation's black. And I went, and his name's Andre. His nickname's Andre. I go, Andre, you sure you want me to do this? And he goes, no, I do. I want your perspective.
Right.
All right. So the first article I wrote was, are you an adjective? And he goes, oh, man, you started out with a death blow. So, and the article basically asked someone, do you wake up every morning identifying with your color, your race, your creed, or something about you? Are you an adjective of yourself, or are you you? It's kind of like taking, Martin Luther King's the content of your character, not the color of your skin. The content of do you wake up thinking about the properties that make you you? I was an object-oriented programmer, so I think of properties. As a programmer, color is a property of an object, and that's it, a property. And if you had the power, you could change that object to any color. People do. They do all sorts of things to their skin, but you can do. I mean, it's a property of you. It's not you. It's just something that doesn't define you. It just highlights a property of you. And it's so with every one of us. Maybe we're loud. Maybe we're quiet. Maybe we've got big eyes. Maybe we've got small eyes. Maybe we've got curly hair. Maybe we've got blonde hair. They're all properties of us. And beyond that, and I know by saying this in today's current world, I'm now a racist. I go, that's interesting. Well, you can stick that racism up your butt because, sorry, being considerate of people is not being racist. And thinking about what makes us who we are doesn't make you a racist. And we talked pre-show and before. I went to a black high school. I got all the other epithets thrown at me. I go, I didn't know I was a cracker, and I didn't know what a honky was when I first went to high school. I learned quickly, and I didn't know what a cracker was until probably 10 years ago. Do you know what a cracker is?
I don't know where it was. I know what it is. It's a term. It's a derogatory term meant to refer to white people.
Yeah, but
I don't know
where it came from. I was shocked when I heard it. I went, and it made sense. Cracker was what was used in the South during the slavery days because the white masters cracked the whip. And they were the crackers. And that's how they became I did not know that until about 10 years ago. I was reading something on etymology of the history of words, and I went, that's how it came. Sort of like the word hooker. Where did the word hooker come from? That came from General Hooker. In the Civil War, he provided prostitutes for his troops so they wouldn't be lonely or sad, or it would just help them throughout the war process.
How about that?
So they became known as hookers girls, and then eventually they became hookers. Interesting how words derive. But that's where cracker came from. I don't have no idea where honky comes from. I just don't know. That one,
I'm sure there's a story somewhere.
Must be something with honking. I don't know, but yeah. So I went through some reverse discrimination. It didn't bother me. I figured, whatever. I actually got jumped by 4 guys one time, and there was no violence. They pretty much just surrounded me, and I was ready to fight if I had to. And I've been doing martial arts my whole life, and I went, I don't want to fight. I'm new in this school, and if I fight, I'm going to let on that I know something, and that gets me in bigger trouble. So I just shut up.
Oh yeah.
And they were saying, you got any money? I go, I'm 15. What kind of money do you think? I was 16 actually. What kind of money do you think I would have? And the guy's like, I don't know. I go, you have any money? He goes, no. I go, what do you think makes you think I have money?
Right.
So he goes, well, you're a white guy. I go, hey, I don't have any money. My parents don't give me any money. I got to work for it, and I don't have a job right now, so I have no money. And so I'm having a conversation with 4 guys that are trying to jump me. So one guy goes, well, let me see your keys. So I showed him my keys, and he throws them as far as he could. I never found them.
Oh, no.
And I go, and he goes, that's for what your people have been doing to my people. I go, I got news for you. My people weren't born in this country, and I wasn't either. And he went, oh.
Yeah.
I go, so, F you. And I never got bugged again by that group. They saw me and just ignored me. And then eventually nobody bugged me other than somebody here and there. I was on the football team for a while. I was big enough. I'm 6'2", and I was about 200 pounds. Good enough, and I didn't mess with anybody. I just kind of kept to myself, had friends in all groups, and life was good. And I knew a couple of guys that were kind of biker guys. If they weren't, they dressed as bikers. They had the biker jackets and stuff, and they liked me. So it goes, I don't know why, but one of the guys liked me, and we became friends. And if anybody messed with me, he got right before I even had a chance to move. He was there. He goes, you want to mess with me? You mess with him. You mess with me. End of fight.
That's cool.
So that was cool. So I got through high school with very few fights, and I could talk my way out of most of them. And a couple of times I had to use some of what I knew, and it worked. So, but never hurt anybody badly, and just stayed out of trouble. But you're right. I've seen it all, and I've heard it all, but I'll tell you, going to a school where I was a minority and everybody was black, I didn't care. I honestly didn't care. The people were nice. The girls were cute. Everybody was okay. Everybody got along. Yeah. And this is back in 1972 when I graduated. Most people get along.
Right. Most people don't know they should care until they're told they should care.
That's right. Right? Yeah. It's like, yeah. And then when you tell them they should care, I've always been a huge believer that the extreme spectrums, the right and the left, and then most decent people just exist in the middle. Yeah. And I'm a big fan of balance, right? It's all about balance, because I don't think people are inherently racist. When I say people, I mean most people. I don't think people are inherently racist. Look at kids. Kids don't have a clue.
Right. But I also
play
think
with anyone.
A lot of
they
people
have a good
understand their biases.
Yes. Yeah.
And I can show people these things in very minuscule parts of their life. Even we're talking about photography. Mm-hmm. I've showed up to places, multiple Instagram meets, yada, 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 and everyone's got their Sony, and they're looking at me like, is that an Olympus? Well, he can't be a good photographer. Like, what does that even have to do with literally anything, right? And it's like, guys, look how your bias becomes a reality you would like to push on me.
Yep. And it's true.
And you take that concept and you put it in this guy's got this type of hedge in front of his home. He's not serious about his landscape and all. This guy's got his rims on his car green instead of red. It's always this like, it doesn't
everybody
matter.
wants to be different.
And I was talking to Rick a little bit about this a little bit before the show, but I think it kind of goes both ways too, because I was telling him I assume partly because I'm an Asian guy in dress clothes, I can show up somewhere with a camera and people will, if they think I'm taking a picture or something, they'll get out of the way. They'll ask me, what company are you with? What agency are you with? And I really not that competent as a photographer. I'm mainly an artist and a graphic designer. I use it more for I use photos more as like reference and other kinds of material for my other things. But I mean, it's nice to just have people assume that I'm competent, but it can, biases can help you and can hurt you depending on what.
Yeah.
Ramon, one time when I was in high school, I actually got away with this. My first year in high school in LA, and I had one guy, it was like my first week was fun. Everybody was coming after me. And one guy comes up and goes, and back then it was something like, hey, let me hold some money. And so he put his hand out, and I took out a dime. I put it in his hand, and I took it back and put it back in my pocket. And he's like, uh-huh. And he looks at me, and I go, don't mess with me. I'm an albino black. And I walked away, and he was like, he's albino black. I think I think for about a year, people thought I was an albino black, and I just went, well, you know what? Yeah, it happened.
It got you a year's worth.
It got me a year's worth of nobody bugging me, and I had a close friend, Chauncey, and he was a good guy. He was as white as could be. His sister was as black as could be, and I was looking at him going, wait a minute, that's your sister? He goes, yeah. And we had another friend who always used to make black jokes in front of Chauncey, and I was going, he doesn't know. Chauncey was half black. And genetics, when you're half black or half anything, you don't know what's coming out. He came out totally white, and his sister was totally black. So one day we went to his house, and his father was a Marine drill instructor. Oh, man. He looked like Lou Gossett, a perfect V shape, good-looking guy, 6'3" or 4. And it's like, he walks into the room, and my friend's next to me, and he's like, his eyes open up. He's the one who made the jokes. And Chauncey goes, I'd like to introduce you to my dad. He's Sergeant Major so-and-so. And I stood up, I shook his hand, and he goes, which one of you likes to make fun of black people? So we all pointed at my friend. And oh, man, he made him stand up. He was sweating. It was great. It was one of those great moments. Made him sweat like there was no tomorrow. And, when a Marine drill instructor just looks at you, you're starting to sweat. They don't mess around.
You feel that energy.
Oh, man. It's like, I'm going to eat you, and maybe then I'll poop you out. I don't know yet.
Yeah.
and he was like, oh, don't mess with him. And he was the nicest guy, actually, but it was great. And after that, Jerry never made any bad jokes again. He was just like, I'm going to shut my mouth, not going to say anything. And it was funny. But Chauncey, you'd never know he was black. His sister, you'd never know she was white. They were mixed. And you just don't know. We had a lady on one of the shows recently. She was whiter than I am with blonde hair. She was half from the islands. She goes, people don't know that. People don't know that. And and
the thing she was telling us,
so they don't need to know that.
Then they don't. No, it doesn't matter.
And the thing she was telling us was both her and her husband are half Caribbean, and
but he looks very black.
Yeah, he looks very black, and so like when they're like hailing a taxi or something, they always she's always the one that does it because she's they'll stop for her more often. And
that is a reality.
It's a crazy world.
It just happens that way.
Anyway, we're going to have to cut the show short because we've got another show in about 10 minutes. Right. And I'm not going to that one, but Harold has one. Let's have you back on, if you don't mind. I'd love to continue talking about this, talk about photography, and just share our lives a little bit because, we all have experiences. And it's how we interpret them, what we do with them. I think that determines who we are. And I think I sent you the quote. It was, I think, Viktor Frankl. Is it Viktor Frankl? Viktor Frank?
Viktor Frankl.
Viktor Frankl. Yeah, he wrote the book on, was it The Meaning of Life or?
Man's Search
for Meaning. I always get that one wrong. I read the book in college a long time ago. And they asked him one time, because his whole family was killed by the Nazis. His wife, no one was left. And they asked him, do you hate the German race? And he said, in my life, there are only two races, decent people and indecent people. And I went, oh, that's beautiful. He never held a grudge. He said it wasn't everyone. It was some people who did it.
Sure.
And that's life. That's life. You can't judge everybody by a whole, and you can't judge, and you shouldn't judge. I mean, especially for stupid things. I mean, to me, it's stupid to judge anyone by a color. Or the type of sunglasses they wear, or the clothes they wear. It's just dumb. It's like you get to know people, and that's really what counts. It's just who they are, what they are, and what you have in common. And we all have a lot of stuff in common.
Yep.
So, hey, love seeing you again. I do enjoy watching your podcast and seeing the stuff you put out.
Thank you.
Keep putting out the great work. You're just one of those guys that I think draws people to him. I think you do a good job, and that's
Yeah, and for everyone watching, you should also check out Ramon's photography. That we've got linked below. He's a real humble guy, but he's very skilled, and he's always getting better too.
He takes nice pictures. You keep saying
you really take your photography seriously.
You're real good.
Thank you, guys. I appreciate that.
No, we mean it. And if you like the show, there you go. Subscribe, do whatever you want. Send comments, leave us comments. If you want to get a hold of Ramon, his info will be below. Take a look at his websites and his YouTube channels. They're great. He does good stuff. So we'll see you all next week. Have a good one, everyone. Thanks, Ramon.